Good afternoon, everyone. How's the sound? Can you hear me? I see some nods from the back of the room. All right. We'll let the last couple of folks find their seats. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cynthia Finney. I'm the president of the Maine AFL-CIO. We're a federation of over 200 labor organizations made up of about 42,000 workers across the state of Maine. I'm here with our national AFL-CIO president, Liz Schuler, along with veterans, VA employees, and other union workers to draw attention to this administration's attacks on veterans and veteran services. Maine is home to the highest concentration of veteran populations of any state in the country, with more than 106,000 veterans. They are Mainers who have honorably served our country and deserve to receive the best quality of health care and services. The administration's public plans to lay off more than 80,000 VA workers is a betrayal of the promise that we made to our men and women in uniform. We also want to point out that nearly 1 in 3 federal workers, that's 28%, is a veteran, compared to 5% in the private sector. This means that when you recklessly fire federal workers, you disproportionately harm veterans. Specifically, we're here to oppose plans to lay off more than 80,000 employees of the Veterans Administration. This will harm veterans and delay services and benefits. To oppose planned layoffs of federal employees that could result in between 200 and 300,000 veterans losing their jobs. This would amount to the largest layoff of veterans in the United States history. And to oppose efforts to attack the quality of federal jobs by repealing collective bargaining rights, seeking to privatize federal work and undermine federal agencies. Good union jobs in the federal sector have been a key part of our system to support veterans transitioning back to civilian life and thriving there. And finally, to oppose reductions in funding and support for PTSD treatment, suicide prevention, and mental health services that will endanger veterans who need it most. Our first speaker this afternoon will be the AFL-CIO president, Liz Schuler.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I am so honored to be here, and thank you for ordering up this beautiful day. And as the daughter of a Vietnam Marine Corps veteran, I just want to say how proud I am to stand with you. And I want to thank the UA for hosting us here today. And thank you so much, Cynthia, for your leadership. You and Matt Schlobaum, who's in the room somewhere, of course, and the team at the Maine State Federation, your executive board, and all the leaders here in the state of Maine, because this is what the labor movement is made for, this moment. You think about, this press conference is actually capping off 2 weeks of hearings that we've been doing all over the country, and that is built upon weeks and weeks of action that we've seen out in the field, because this is about capturing workers' voices and bringing their stories to life, because often they're left out of the conversation. And we are going to hear today specifically from the heroes who have stepped up and served our country when we needed them. And we've intentionally held these hearings in places that aren't strongholds for either political party, places like Maine that have such a diverse perspectives and viewpoints, independent thinking, and really a history of finding common ground, frankly. And so that's what these hearings are about, recognizing Democrat, Republican, Independent. These cuts affect all of us. They touch every single one of our lives. And I know folks are familiar with DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, and what Elon Musk has been doing. I think he looks at it through this lens of a bunch of, numbers on a spreadsheet. And I think there's this narrative that, you know, we're talking about bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. Does anyone here know the percentage of federal workers who are actually outside of Washington, D.C.? It's 85% of federal workers are actually outside of D.C. So that's why we're here. That is where we come in as a labor movement. We actually are there to bring those stories forward, and sharing those stories at events like this one all over the country, where we can show what is actually happening, why it matters, and how it is impacting real people. Because this is about our families, this is about our communities, this is about the services. Of course, we think about jobs in the labor movement, but we also know this is going to ripple out across communities and the services that we count on. About 1/3 of our government employees are veterans. I think Cynthia said it, veterans of our armed forces. And I think there are about, you said 100,000 or so in Maine who are, they're counting on these services. They should be able to receive the health care they need when they come back home. And many are serving in our federal government and relying on federal care. And so I'll just say, does it make sense to anybody here to gut jobs at the Togus VA Medical Center? No. 20 minutes from here, so that it's harder for our heroes to get their health care. Make any sense? No. Does it make sense to anybody here to fire veterans who have come home and are protecting our forests, keeping our communities safe, making sure the air we breathe is clean? Does it make sense to cut that? No. Does it make sense to do those things in the name of government efficiency just to give billionaires another tax cut that they don't need? Does that make sense? I didn't think so. Because when we talk about DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, when we heard that that was being formulated, we said, well, wait a second. If you can invent a Department of Government Efficiency, we, the people, the workers who are behind the scenes, who are delivering these services, should have our own department. So we launched the Department of People Who Work for a Living. And we wanted to do that to make sure that people hear these stories, understand what's going on, and really unpack it. And I would say every one of us has a role in that. And after we hear the stories today, we need to make sure that our friends and our neighbors and our family members, our legislators in Washington, D.C., hears these stories. And that is how we fight back. That is how we build the kind of future that we all want. So I'm looking forward to hearing from the folks who will be bringing their stories forward today and building that future with all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, President Schuler. And our next speaker will be Scott Adams, who's a U.S. Army veteran and the president of the American Postal Workers Union, Local 458.
Good afternoon. My name is Scott Adams. I'm president of the American Postal Workers Union, Local 458. We represent about 600 employees in southern Maine. And as Cynthia said, I'm a veteran of the Army and the Army Reserve. After completing 2 years of active duty, I remained in the reserve for an additional 7. And upon getting out of the active duty, I heard that I didn't really know what I was going to do next, but I heard that the Postal Service had, they encouraged veterans in their hiring process by giving veterans preference. So I applied for the Postal Service for a position in Portland, and I've now worked for the Postal Service for 39 years. Still don't know what I want to do after I get out of the Army. No. They're great jobs. And a lot of my coworkers are veterans. We look at the impact that the cuts could have on them, and it's frustrating. Elon Musk and his billionaire buddies are pushing to cut the federal workforce by 50%. When you bring the chainsaw to the federal workforce, you're by definition bringing a chainsaw to veterans who have served this country, and it's wrong. In my time at the Postal Service, I've seen hundreds of veterans come into good union jobs. The Postal Service employs nearly 100,000 veterans. The Postal Service and Federal Civil Service are critical components of supporting veterans in the transition back into civilian life. These good jobs are a key part of honoring our promise to veterans to take care of them when they come back home. It's the union that protects our veterans, and protect all our members, but in protecting the veterans, we ensure that our veterans get the benefits that are afforded them in our contract, whether it's the hiring preference, military leave, retirement credit, or wounded warrior leave. We police the process and take care of our brothers and sisters who have served. With cuts and potential privatization of the Postal Service, we would see those benefits disappear. Project 2025 tries to rationalize the privatization of VA healthcare. The most insulting excuse is that sending veterans to local private healthcare contractors would provide faster, top-quality healthcare services and would reduce waiting times for medical appointments and claim decisions, more so than with fully staffed federal government medical professionals who are trained to serve and provide top-quality healthcare service to veterans. There's absolutely no proof that privatizing VA healthcare and increasing the wealth of those awarded private VA contracts would provide better or faster healthcare services than our fully staffed federal agencies. Has the increased privatization of VA healthcare services over the past 23 years reduced wait times for VA appointments? Absolutely not. Wait times for newly enrolled veterans' first medical appointments are months long, which is a dramatic increase in waiting times for VA services. Speaking of VA services, veteran suicide rates have increased, but the process to access help from the privatized Veteran Suicide and Crisis Lifeline has gotten more challenging. When dialing 988 to access support, the automatic process prompts the veterans to dial 911 in case of an emergency, instead of connecting them with a counselor. Finally, my friends and families and hundreds of my coworkers use the VA. We've been making some progress connecting more veterans to the VA and getting better staffing at the VA. The math here is simple. If you cut 83,000 jobs through the stated goal, you will harm veterans. Veteran services will be diminished, and you will delay services and benefits. You'll break the fundamental promise that we've made as a country to our veterans. Pending disability claims have increased from roughly 350,000 in 2019 to nearly 1 million in 2025. Backlog claims have risen from 88,000 to 250,000 over the same period. Layoffs at the VA will clearly reduce service, weaken the system, and adversely impact men and women who we should be taking care of. I call on Maine's congressional delegation to stand with 106,000 veterans in Maine and oppose these cuts to the VA, oppose delay and harms to veteran services, and oppose mass firings of veterans. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. And our next speaker will be Liz Harkins, who's an employee of the Veterans Administration, the VA, and also the president of the American Federation of Government Employees, Local 2604.
Thank you. So I'm going to forewarn all of you, these make me nervous. I public speak all the time, these make me nervous. So if I stutter, I apologize in advance, okay? So again, my name is Liz Harkins. I am the president of AFGE Local 2604. Over. Okay, see, I'm trying to get away from the microphone. I started with the VA about 10 years ago. I started in the Veterans Health Administration, and about 3 years ago, I transferred over into the Veterans Benefit Administration. That's where most of your veterans are going to go ahead and get their service connection, disability, pension claims, VR&E, VOC rehab, and home loans, and all those fun things that a lot of our veterans don't know they're entitled to. So I'm just going to move on. So first, I just want to sincerely thank all of you for inviting me here to be part of this movement and allowing me to honor and represent the veterans of Maine. I'm proudly served the Tri-State President. I am of AFG Local 2604. I represent New Hampshire. I represent Vermont, Western Massachusetts within the Department of Veteran Affairs. I'm a multi-agency president. I mostly cover VHA, which is Veterans Health Administration, and Veterans Benefit Administration, and our vet centers. Today, I stand before you today not only as an advocate for our veteran community, but also unwavering support. See, they're getting me nervous. I gotta move. I'll back up, okay? I'll just back up. They do make me nervous. It's a trigger. So I apologize to everybody. I'll speak loud and proud. So again, today I stand before you as an advocate for the veteran community, but also unwavering support and dedication to the employees of the Department of Veteran Affairs. These are professionals who deliver critical healthcare essential benefits to our veterans, from primary care, specialty care, mental health, health education, pharmaceutical care, laboratory services, administrative support, and I also want to reiterate the compensation claims that we do process daily. They are the true backbone of the VA system, ensuring that every veteran receives health care, compensation benefits that they have rightfully earned. We are gathered to affirm a simple yet powerful truth. We are all essential employees. The strength and success of our veterans' healthcare system depend entirely on dedication and expertise and commitment of its staff. When we stand together, we embody the very mission of the Department of Veteran Affairs to serve and honor American veterans and their families. Yet today, many of our employees live with growing fear and uncertainty, worried about not only their own futures, but the future of the veterans they serve day in and day out. Today, every one of us carries a personal story about a veteran who has touched our lives, or we're veterans ourselves. This is important. We've all been touched by a veteran. For this, it's not a simple job. This is not a simple job. It's a calling. We work for our veterans because it's a calling. The duty is rooted deep. It's deep respect, it's gratitude, it's love. It's for who have served and have worn the uniform. It's the microphones. I'm telling you, it's the microphones. I do this all the time. All right. And the reason is simple. We are already operating under staffing constraints while facing an unprecedented surge in the number of veterans we serve. The Department of Veteran Affairs across both VHA and VBA saw a dramatic increase in veteran enrollment claims due to honoring our promise to address comprehensive toxics, also known as the PACT Act. In 2023, former Secretary Dennis McDonough proudly announced the hiring of tens of thousands of new employees. Yet shortly thereafter, the department announced it would need to eliminate 10,000 Veterans Health administrative employees through a RIF by 2025. Now that's healthcare. We're not talking about benefit side. Two different buildings, A and B. And now, under the current administration, that number would rise up to 80,000 positions cut across the entire VA. That includes Veterans Benefit Administration, Veterans Health Administration, and National Cemetery Administration. Let's be clear about the impact. Our mission comes from the heart to care and honor our veterans and their families. It's important to understand our commitment goes far beyond than just having a good job. It's about fulfilling the sacred promise. The hard truth, without us, veterans care will be disrupted, it will be delayed. It will cause fear and confusion amongst our elderly veterans. And I'm going to insert this today. Today is the 50th year that the Vietnam War ended. So I'd like to thank our Vietnam War veterans. Now let's talk about the real reason why we're here today. The proposed reduction in workforce. A reduction in staffing, bringing us back to pre-2020 levels, will have devastating consequences. It will cause further delays in both healthcare services and processing service-connected disability compensation and pension claims. In 2023, the VHA workforce grew by 7.4%, hiring roughly 61,000 people. The VBA hired over 6,000%. Yet pending disability claims have soared from 353,072 in 2019 to 732 in 2025. Backlog claims have pending more than 125 days have nearly tripled. In our healthcare, VHA, the Veterans Health enrolled 401 and 6,000 veterans last year for care, 30% more than the year before. Today, the VA serves over 9.1 million veterans. 2.8 million veterans now receive care in the community where longer wait times are already growing. And so I ask you, how can anyone believe that cutting our workforce will not cripple our mission? We must remember the original charge given to us, the very heart of our department, spoken by President Abraham Lincoln, to care for him who shall borne the battle and for his widow and his orphan. We cannot fulfill that promise if we weaken the very staff who deliver it. We must always remember our freedoms exist because of sacrifices made by our veterans and their loved ones. And every day, VA employees make sacrifices of their own to provide steadfast, high-quality health care and essential support to those who served. Before I close, I leave you with the wise words of Robert Frost. He said in 1952, "Freedom lies in being bold." Today, let us honor the boldness. Let us stand strong. Let us continue the proud mission. Let us serve our veterans with pride, compassion, and unwavering courage. Thank you.
And I wanted to also mention that Liz's, there are a number of workers who live in Maine that are part of Liz's union, and also members of her union service a lot of vets who live in southern Maine. So thank you, Liz. Our next speaker will be Elena Schaefer, who is the president of the Metal Trades Council at the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard.
Good afternoon, brothers, sisters, siblings, and members of the press. My name is Elena Schaefer, and I'm the president of the Federal Employees Metal Trades Council at Portsmouth Naval Shipyard, representing approximately 3,600 workers across about a dozen trades. Many of these dedicated craftsmen are proud veterans. They chose federal service after their military careers, seeking stability and a steward transition into civilian life. But today, that stability is being ripped from underneath them day by day. Because of the Department of Defense's hiring freeze, hundreds of shipyard fires, including many veterans who had already accepted job offers and in many cases already moved across the country, now just sit in limbo. These individuals who once again answered the call to service, this time through civil service, only to be met with broken promises and bureaucratic purgatory. When people hear the term DEI initiatives, which were among the first targets of this administration's executive orders, they may think about the attacks on ethnic minorities, the LGBTQ+ community, and women. And rightly so. These groups have fought for decades to be seen, to be heard, to have a seat at the table, and still, they're being told that their accomplishments don't count. They're just a DEI hire. I've been told that on multiple occasions myself. But what often gets missed is the veterans that are being hurt by these rollbacks too. Under the guise of eliminating DEI, we were told to dismantle our employee resource groups, including our Veterans Resource Group. That space was not political. It was vital. It offered camaraderie. It helped our veterans understand their benefits. It helped them access the support that they earned, support that can be confusing, complicated, and overwhelming to navigate alone. And now that's gone. This administration's attack on collective bargaining has also taken a toll on our veterans. I've sat at the table more times than I can count, helping our disabled veterans secure the reasonable accommodations that they need just to keep working and to stay employed. That's what our union does. At Portsmouth, our mission directly supports national defense. The patriots who serve this country, whether they're in uniform or whether they're in coveralls, deserve better. They deserve jobs that they can count on. They deserve leadership that keeps their promises. And they deserve to know that their service is valued, not discarded in the name of politics. We're calling on this administration, stop turning your back on our veterans, stop turning your back on our federal employees, and stop turning your back on the values that this nation claims to stand for. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. And our next speaker will be Scott Surrett, who's a U.S. Marine Corps veteran and also the president of Branch 122 of the Mail Handlers Union.
Good afternoon. My name is Scott Surrett. I live here in Maine. I'm Branch 120 president of the Mail Handlers Union. I'm a veteran of the Marine Corps. I was in the Marines for over 4 years, served in the Desert Storm, Gulf War in Iraq and Kuwait. I was proud to serve my country, and I've always been proud to continue to support fellow veterans through my work in the union. Today is my last day of employment before I retire. After working 26 years of the Postal Service, like many other veterans, federal employment was appealing to me as I was able to buy back about 4 of my years from the military service. I believe in a simple contract. Those who sacrifice for their country and put their heart, soul, and life on the line deserve to be taken care of and treated with dignity and respect. Supporting our veterans means you have to take care of us when we have come home in good health care and other services, good jobs, and real support coming back into civilian life. The contract we make as a country with veterans is currently being broken. The administration has made clear that their upcoming reduction in force, the RIF plan, they seek to eliminate 83,000 jobs from the VA. This is more than 15% of the total staff of the VA. We know what that will mean. It'll mean delays in veterans seeking care. It will mean delays in receiving benefits. It'll mean harm to veterans. It'll mean a decline in the quality of care veterans receive. It will mean a promise broken. And as a veteran, that is just plain wrong. Every time you hear about the federal firings or layoffs, I want for you to remember that roughly 1 in 3 federal workers is a veteran. And when we gut the federal workforce, we are gutting veterans. Over the last couple months, those actions have been attributed to more than 280,000 layoffs or planned layoffs of federal workers and contractors. Simple math tells you that means more than 90,000 veterans laid off or targeted for layoff. And we know that these efforts to cut federal jobs will increase over the coming months as most agencies implement reduction in force plans. If implemented, this administration's stated goals for the federal workforce would result in the largest layoff of veterans in United States history. That is a promise broken, and it is wrong. I don't think the public really understands what veterans who serve in combat go through and see. You don't unsee the things you've seen. They stay with you and sometimes haunt you. That means the transition back to civilian life can be challenging, means that transition back to civilian life can be challenging, and the real support is needed. We've done a good job as a country in using federal employment as a way to support our veterans, getting back into good quality union jobs. That's what makes a world of the difference, to have a steady paycheck, good benefits, and retirement, to be able to buy back your service time. I've seen at firsthand at the Postal Service. The Postal Service is one of the largest employers of veterans in this country. I work with hundreds of veterans who have benefited from these good jobs in the Postal Service. Right now, there is a clear effort to weaken this whole system by eliminating collective bargaining rights, seeking privatization in the Postal Service, and dismantling vital agencies like Social Security. 1 million federal workers just had their collective bargaining rights stripped with the stroke of a pen. When you attack unions, you attack the quality of jobs available to returning veterans, and you are hurting veterans. Again, this is a promise broken. And as a veteran, I urge Maine's congressional delegation to stop these attacks on veterans and veteran services. Thank you.
Again, I want to thank all of our speakers. And just to sum up, I want to repeat what you've heard, I think, from everyone who stood up here and spoke, that we made a promise to our veterans that they would receive the best quality health care and other services to help them transition and thrive back in civilian life. For over 100 years, we've given preference in hiring for veterans in federal employment in recognition of their service to this country and the valuable skills that they bring to this work. The core messages here today are that cutting more than 83,000 jobs from the VA will harm veterans and hurt veterans' benefits and services. That the administration is proposing the largest layoff of veterans in United States history. 1 in 3 federal workers is a veteran. When you gut federal workers, you automatically hurt veterans. And that good federal union jobs are a key part of the system of supporting veterans reintegrating into civilian life. Again, when we dismantle federal jobs, we will harm veterans and break a promise. We call on our elected leaders to honor the promise we made and to do everything in their power to reject these attacks on our veterans. And we're happy to answer any questions that you have. All right. Super. Great. So Dan Gutierrez is the Secretary-Treasurer of AFC 2610 at Togus, not able to be with us today, but there is a video message from him.
Veterans who receive services at VA Togus praise the staff about the exceptional care they receive. Cutting staff will affect the way we deliver that care. We need to keep all staff in order to continue with that level of success.
Thank you. So again, we're calling on our elected officials to keep the promise, and we're happy to answer any questions that you have. Got 2 Liz's here. President Schuler? Yeah, why don't we all come up? That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Take the mic.
I don't know, was she
I
intending
think
for
she meant
you?
you.
Oh, okay.
You recently gave a speech talking about the first 100 days of
Yeah.
the Trump administration. Can you kind of hit some highlights for us more broadly about what his 100 days have meant to labor unions?
Well, absolutely. We have seen this first 100 days embody what Project 2025 set out to do, which is to wreak havoc across the federal government and the services that many of us rely on. And not only is it jobs that have been cut, but it is the ripple effects that we know across entire communities. And we talked about, you know, the impact on veterans, but also thinking about things like clean water and safe food and making sure our planes stay safely in the skies. You know, you think about the ripple effect across pretty much everyone. So for those out there who are thinking about federal workers and the impacts being narrow, think again, because this is going to ripple out across every type of job, every impact in every community will be felt. So we gave this administration so far a failing grade on the report card for the first 100 days simply because of the impact of DOGE, the cuts we're seeing on jobs, the disregard for, these court decisions and some of the EOs that have been, preliminarily stopped, the preliminary injunctions that have taken place. We think that most of the moves against unions, like canceling collective bargaining for nearly 1 million federal workers, is blatantly illegal and will be rolled back. And so we are fighting in the courts, we are fighting in Congress, we are fighting at the community level to make sure that these illegal actions don't take hold, and that working people's voices will continue to shape the direction of this country. Anybody else? No?
For the Maine union leaders, can you talk about the people in your union who may have voted for the president in this past election? What are they saying about this? Are they mad, or are they supportive of what the president's doing?
Sure. I can say that there's definitely a lot of, quiet people among our workforce right now. I think that we heard a lot of, we didn't understand that this was going to happen. And I think that what we would say to that is that, we understand sometimes it's easy to be blinded by what you see in the media, easy to be blinded, by what it seems on the surface, but the important part is that we understand now, and so we can band together and work together and move forward from here.
Sure, I'll try this again. All right, so in regards to that, where you have Trump supporters that are veterans and their concerns moving forward, from my perspective and dealing with veterans, both in a VBA role and also as a union president, we have to respect that we do have both Democratic, Independent, and Republicans. And I think what's happened is, right now, I see that our veteran Trump supporters, it hasn't affected them yet. So I don't believe that they are really the know of what is going to come. Right now, they're still getting their health care. They're still getting their benefits, their service connection benefits. They're still getting their Social Security benefits. I don't think until something happens with their very own fiduciary or their health care, and then there's an interruption, will we see those supporters coming forward and saying, this is not what I asked for, and this is not what I signed up for. And I think really we have to look at it in that perspective, that it hasn't affected them yet. And it won't affect them until the RIF is in place. And then when we look at the big picture, this is a fiduciary thing. It's fiduciary. It's not about us as humans. It's about the money. And once it starts to affect your money and your livelihood, then people are going to start speaking up. Then they're going to come out and they're going to stand with us. Thank you.
I'll just add to that, it's probably Maine is very similar to other places in the country that I've traveled, and hearing from workers about the impacts. She's right, it is slow. It hasn't necessarily landed in as broad a way as we believe it will. But I think most people are paying attention to the news and starting to question some of the policies. And the one thing that union members care about is their contract. And when they see an assault on a contract like we did with the federal workers, where with the stroke of a pen, collective bargaining was eliminated for nearly 1 million workers, that wakes people up, and you say to yourself, well, that could be me next. And so whether you're in the federal sector, the public sector, the private sector, this injury to one is an injury to all is really starting to take hold within our labor movement, and I think working people broadly see what's on the horizon. So we will continue to uplift the stories. That's why it's so important to be here today, is to put a human face on these cuts, because it's not just a bunch of bureaucrats in Washington, D.C., it is real people in real communities. So the more we can tell those stories and humanize the impacts, I think the more people will be waking up and realizing what these cuts mean.
Just to follow up on what the sister says, You know, it used to be about 40% of our union was registered Republican. For the people that voted for Donald Trump, it's not, you know, we're not addressing things in a partisan way. We're looking at the issues. And, you know, anybody that voted for Donald Trump might say, well, this isn't what we voted for, not knowing what some of those things that could happen. For us, I mean, there's a bull in the china shop, and we'd be foolish not to think that our stuff's not getting broken too. So for the Postal Service, you know, we've talked about potential privatization, but if that were to happen and it became a private company, would our veterans still have wounded warrior leave? Would they still have the buyback, which is, that's very important. It affects a whole lot of things down the road for retirement, for leave earned. We would probably lose some of those benefits for the veterans. So we just really look at it as an issue. You know, we look at the issues and we have to deal with that. We have to take care of the veterans, and we have to make sure that those benefits that they have now, that they'll continue to have.
Thanks, Scott. Other questions? Well, again, want to appreciate your time here today, and folks will be available if you want to speak individually to them. We're going to be rearranging the room for a conversation we're having this afternoon, but feel free to stay and talk with people. So,
Thank you.
yeah, I probably should do that in the hall. Good, yeah, because otherwise you'll have a lot of background noise. So we're going to be dragging chairs.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks again for being here. Appreciate it.